Hello students, I welcome you all to the online class of physical education. So today I have come with chapter 4 of class 12, that is physical education and sports for children with special needs. So when we call children with special needs, that means the disabled child. So very recently, the Prime Minister of our country has suggested a name to the disabled child. The name is Divyang. Divyang means a holy soul, a sacred body. So students, instead of calling disabled child, it gives a very wrong message. Those children who are having disabilities, they feel down, they feel bad. So instead of calling them disabled child, instead of calling them Viklang in Hindi, it is always better to call them as Divyang. Divyang means a holy body, okay, a sacred body. So let us see what are all the things which we are going to consider under this chapter. So, first and foremost, we will be discussing about the concept of disability and disorder. Next, we will be discussing types of disabilities and its causes and nature. Next, we will be discussing the types of disorder. After that, we will be discussing the disability etiquettes. After that, we will be discussing, this one is being omitted students. So the last one we will be discussing as strategies to make physical activities accessible for children with special needs. So let's start. So as in the first slide you can see, we will be discussing about the concept of disability. So what basically is disability? As you can see in the name itself, the name is the combination of two terms, that is dis and the second term is ability. So we understood from the term disability that it creates hurdles, it creates obstacles in the performance of an individual. This is not allowing the individuals to perform in a smooth manner. So let us see, what does the word disability mean? So as you can see, according to WHO, so WHO has suggested that a disability is a restriction or lack of ability to perform any activity in the manner or within the range considered normal for a human being. Next one is, disability is the reduction of functional ability to lead daily fruitful life. One another meaning also you can see students, that disability is any condition that makes it more difficult for a person to do certain activities or interact with the world around them. So many meanings I have brought for you. Okay, the last one is a physical or mental condition that limits a person's movement, senses or activities. So this is all about the concept of disability. Moving ahead, the next one is disorder. Meaning of disorder. So what does the word disorder mean? So it can be said that a disorder disrupts the normal functioning of an individual. That means disorder limits, restricts an individual in functioning properly. The various systems of the body is not supporting, is not functioning smoothly and properly. They are creating hindrance. Okay, so next is, disorder can be defined as a blip in the usual functioning of a person. So as I told you that various obstacles, hurdles are caused, and that lets the systems of the body, various organ systems are not functioning properly because of that. So disorder create hindrance in an individual's performance and reduce his or her efficiency. A disorder cannot be detected on time, as a result of which a simple disorder is changed into a disability. So disorder sometimes gets changed into disability if it is not being rectified on time. So moving ahead, students, next, in the next slide you can see we are going to discuss types of disabilities. So when we are going to types of disabilities, we can see there are various types of disabilities like cognitive disability, intellectual disability, and physical disability. As we can see, cognitive disability I have classified into three, that is memory disorder, hyperactivity, and dyslexia. So let's see. First one is cognitive disability. Now whenever we hear the word cognitive, what does it mean? It is a neurological disorder. That means it is related with our neurology, that is nervous system. It is a neurological disorder that creates hindrance. So it creates hindrance and obstruction for an individual to store, process, and produce information. In simpler terms, this ability can affect an individual's ability or capacity to read, write, compute, and speak. So basically they are creating hindrance in the affected individual is unable to read properly, write properly, unable to compute, means calculate the things in an efficient manner. Also, they are not able to speak properly. So, moving ahead, students, the next one is the following symptoms. And I have shown you the three parts. So, these are the following symptoms of cognitive disability. So, the first one is memory disorder. So, the individual's memory is being get affected because of cognitive disability. An individual who have auditory problems or difficulty in remembering something that he or she heard, said, or saw some time ago. That means short time memory loss. So what they see just few times back, they are unable to remember that. That is memory loss. Next one is hyperactivity. Hyperactivity means may not be able to pay attention for longer duration of time. The individual will not be able to focus on a particular thing for longer duration of time. The next one is difficult to stay at one place. They will be unable to stay in one place for longer duration. He or she usually loses concentration frequently. The last one is dyslexia. That is, he or she may difficulty in writing, reading, and speaking. So, these are all the symptoms of cognitive disability. So, moving ahead, students, to the next slide, that is, next type of disability we are going to discuss is intellectual disability. So, naturally from the name, from the term itself, we understand that it affects the individual's thinking process, that is, intellectualness of the individual is being affected. So, let's see. Limitation both in intellectual functioning, that is, When we call intellectual functioning, what does it consist? It consists of reasoning, learning, problem solving. And in adaptive behavior, which covers the range of everyday social and practical skills. So these are all the things that are included under intellectual disability. So moving ahead, students, the third one. Okay, the third one is physical disability. The third type of disability is physical disability. Now, physical disability means it will be happening with the physique of an individual. That can be with the skeletal system, that can be with the various muscular systems of the body. So, let us see limitations on an individual's physical functioning, mobility, dexterity and slatmania. So physical disability may be either more motor deficiency. Now when we say motor deficiency, it means mobility impairment. As I told you that physical disability, more of the case is taking place to the skeletal system or the muscular system of an individual. It is also related to brain damage, which may occur before birth, during or after birth, or sometimes after stroke also. Next is visual or hearing impairment. Visual impairment means those who are unable to see the things properly. Hearing impairment means those who are unable to hear the things properly. We call them as deaf. So this is all about, or this all includes physical disability. So moving ahead, students, next slide is the various causes of disability. As you can see, there are so many causes which I have enlisted. The first cause is genetic cause. Now, what is genetic? The word genetic means which we inherit from our parents or from our ancestors. That is genetic. That means the individual will be inheriting the problem from their ancestors, from parents. So, next one is poverty. Poverty means the individuals, due to lack of food, due to lack of proper nutrition, they suffer from disability. The third one is mental health problem. If anybody is being affected through mental health problem, then they are very much sure to have one of the disability. More of the chance will be intellectual disability. Next one is accident. Through accidents also some organ damage takes place. So through organ damage, if it is very much severe, if the accident is very much severe, then again disability may occur. Next one is infectious disease. So if any disease takes place in the body and that route to infection in any of the part of the organ or any of the part of the body, that may again cause disability. Next one is malnutrition. It is very much related to what we discussed under poverty, that due to lack of proper nutrition, disability may occur. So poor approach to healthcare. Next is nuclear accident, means some accidents which are occurring due to some nuclear explosions and all, toxic materials, pesticides and insecticides, then illness, lack of education, wars, medicines and vaccines, dangerous working environment. So these are all the various causes and causes of disability. So moving to the next slide, students, that is types of disorders. Now we are going to discuss types of disorder. Okay, types of disability over we have understood the various types of disability, we have understood the causes of disability. Now we move on to the next slide, that is types of disorder. As we can see in the slide that there are various types of disorders are being enlisted. The first one is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. In short we call it ADHD. The second type of disorder is sensory processing disorder. In short we call it SPD. The third one is autism spectrum disorder. In short we call it ASD. The fourth one is oppositional defiant disorder. In short we call it ODD. The fifth and the last one is obsessive compulsive disorder. In short we call it OCD. So these are all the various types of disorders which we are going to discuss one by one in elaborate way. So let's move. So students, just see. The first type of disorder, that is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So in this disorder, the subject or the individual who is affected is unable to focus, is unable to pay attention on a particular thing for longer duration of time. So a chronic condition including attention difficulty, hyperactivity and impulsiveness. ADHD often being in children and can persist in adulthood also. A person with ADHD has differences in brain development and brain activity that affects attention, that affect the ability to sit still and self-control. So the things which I have already told you are being enlisted. So moving ahead, in the next slide students, you can see the symptoms of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, that is ADHD. So I have enlisted the symptoms for children and I have also enlisted some of the symptoms for the adults. So let's see one by one. The first symptom in children, usually we find that usually for the children they forgot about daily activities. Okay? They have difficulties in organizing the routine activities. Under adults, the first symptom is they have anxiety attacks. Adults have anxiety attacks. Okay? Adults have problem in controlling their anger. The third one, under children, they indulge in daydreaming, whereas the adults have low self-esteem. Next one, in children, they have problem in playing quietly, whereas the adults, they easily get frustrated. The next one is they talk excessively. The child or the children who are affected by ADHD, they talk excessively. And in adults, mood swings and depressions are very much common. The last one is the children not pay proper attention. They usually make careless mistake. That means casual mistakes, very silly mistakes are being committed by the children. Whereas in adulthood, the problem in concentrating, especially while reading, okay, that is being missing. The adults miss, they are facing a lot of problems related to concentration, especially when they are reading something. So this is all about the symptoms of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. as I have classified into two, that is symptoms in children and symptoms in adults, which will help you students to understand the things in a better way. Yes students, in the next slide we are going to discuss the causes of ADHD, that is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So the first cause, as you can see, is genetic factor. So as discussed earlier, genetic factors means when we inherit it from our parents. So ADHD can also be a genetic factor. If our parents are suffering from this disorder, then their children, they will be very much probable of carrying forward or getting it from their parents. The next one is brain injury. The second one is brain injury. So if a child suffers from brain injury during his childhood, then they are very much prone to have the disorder known as ADHD. The third one is low birth weight. Next, so low birth weight means if during the childbirth, if any complications take place, then because of that also, if child have some weight issues, then also they may have some disorder known as ADHD. The next one is trauma or brain disease. Trauma means, students, a shocking news. Someone who is very near or dear to you, if they passes away, if any close friend of you are having conflicts with them, so the things which are unexpected, okay, so they are all known as trauma. As well as the brain disease, these things may also lead to ADHD disorder. The next one is lack of discipline in the family. If disciplinary issues are taking place very frequently in families, then that may also lead to ADHD, because the individual will be suffering from lack of concentration. The individual will be, most of the time, will be psychologically disturbed. The next one is diet. So if proper diet is not been given, then it may lead to ADHD disorder, because our brain, our mind requires proper nutrition, and if they don't get, so disorders can take place. The last one is exposure to toxic substances. Toxic substances means the harmful chemicals. If any individual is consuming the toxic substances, if any individual is consuming the harmful chemicals, so the harmful chemicals are getting inside the body and it may affect our brain. It may collapse our thinking process and it will lead to ADHD. So I hope students you have understood ADHD properly. So moving ahead to the next disorder, that is sensory processing disorder. We call it SPD in short. So what is SPD? Sensory processing disorder is a condition in which the brain has trouble. So brain has trouble in which manner? So brain has trouble in receiving and responding to information that comes in through various senses. That means, as we all are aware that we have 5 sense organs. So those sense organs, they are sending signals, and if those signals, if those responses are not being received properly by an individual and respond accordingly, then the disorder can take place, The disorder's name is sensory processing disorder. It refers to the way the nervous system receives message from the senses and turns them into responses. So basically it is a disorder to our nervous system, because it is nervous system only which is responding accordingly. So moving ahead, let's see the various causes of sensory processing disorder. The first cause is genetic factor. Again, genetic factor means the things which we inherit, which we carry forward, which we inherit from our parents. So if parents are having the disorder known as sensory processing disorder, then their offsprings, their children are also very much likely to get the disorder, that is sensory processing disorder. The next one is low birth weight. Again, if birth complications would have taken place, then due to that, if the baby is having lesser body weight, then the disorder known as sensory processing disorder may also take place. The next one is environmental factor. Environmental factor means the place where we survive, where we live. If our surrounding is not conducive, then also the sensory processing disorder can occur. The next one is physical cause. That is, if the individual is not participating in physical activities, they are most of the time remaining alone, then those circumstances, those situations can lead an individual to sensory processing disorder. Moving ahead to the third type of disorder is autism spectrum disorder. We call it ASD also. So autism spectrum disorder is a condition related to brain development. So that means autism spectrum disorder is creating hindrance, creating obstacles, not allowing our brain to develop properly. That impacts how a person perceives and socializes with others, causing problems in social interaction and communication. Means the individual is having problem in social interactions as well as during communication. This disorder is also includes limited and repetitive patterns of behavior. So next we see some of the causes of autism spectrum disorder. So the first cause is genetic factor. You will find, students, this genetic factor in all the disorders, because genetic factor is one of the prime factor when it comes to cause of any disorder. So the things which we inherit from our parents are known as genetic factors. Environmental factor is when our the surrounding is not conducive, then those all factors may also lead to autism spectrum disorder. The third one is brain development. If our brain is not properly developed, if it is not properly getting nutrition and all, that may also lead to disorder known as autism spectrum disorder. The next one in the screen you can see is oppositional different disorder. So we call it ODD in short. What is ODD? What is oppositional different disorder? In this type of disorder, students, the individual or the affected person always argues, always defend. They are not ready to accept. They are not ready to obey the instructions given by the elders. every time they are having some arguing nature. So let's see. They may express their defense by arguing, disobeying, or talking back to their parents, teachers, and other adults. The child's behavior often disrupts the child's normal daily activities, including activities within family and at school. So, moving ahead to causes of ODD. So, the first cause you can see is the genetic factor. Again, we can also inherit this disorder if our parents are suffering from oppositional different disorder. Next is physical factor. If the individual is not participating in regular physical activities, then the individual is very much prone to be having nature of irritability, and which may lead to oppositional different disorder. The next one is psychological factor. Psychological factor means if proper psychological counseling is not being done, then the individual might suffer from ODD. So time to time proper counseling, proper sitting have to be done with the affected individual. Otherwise the things will deteriorate. The last one is social factor. If the individual is not very much social, if the individual is not mingling with neighbors, not mingling with other society members, then they are very much prone due to staying alone. They might develop the disorder known as oppositional different disorder, because in that situation that individual always thinks that whatever he or she is doing is always right. So moving ahead to the last one, the fifth. The fifth type of disorder is obsessive compulsive disorder. In short, we call it OCD. So, students, it is a disorder where the affected individual repeats the activity again and again to get confirmed. I give you a very small example. Sometimes you must have seen that after locking the door, there are some individuals who are trying to drag the lock again and again to be sure that the lock has been locked properly or not. So it is a behavior similar to obsessive compulsive disorder, where the affected individuals repeats the activities again and again to get sure. So let's see. Obsessive compulsive disorder is an anxiety disorder in which, like, people have recurring unwanted thoughts, ideas or sensations, obsessions that make them feel driven to the something repeatedly, that is compulsion, that they are doing the activities again and again. So I have, with the help of a table, I have tried to show you. Just see, here you can find the main obsessions and the main compulsions. What are the obsessions? A fear of harm to yourself or loved one. Under compulsion, repeating things or always moving items to keep them in exact order. Now, under obsession, a fear of contamination by germs. Under compulsion, bathing and washing hand several times. There are many individuals who are washing hands again and again. So, just see. The obsession is a fear of being embarrassed So under compulsion, checking things over and over again. So not to be embarrassed. So they are checking the things again and again that whether I have done the thing in a correct manner or not. So similarly, the next one is a fear of getting dirty. Under compulsion, repeating specific words again and again. The last one is a fear of making mistake. So what is compulsion? Constant praying that God please save me. So constant praying is being made. Next is persistently counting while doing usual tasks. If you give them some task of counting, they repeat the counting again and again because they are not getting sure. They are not getting confirmed that whatever task they are performing it in a correct way or not. So, moving ahead, students, the causes of obsessive compulsive disorder. So, you see, the exact cause of OCD is still unknown. Several research studies are going on, but still date there have not been the proper cause. So I have enlisted some of the victorious cycle of OCD, means how an individual can get rid of obsessive compulsive disorder. So temporary relief is one of the thing. The other one is obsessive thought. The next one is compulsive behavior. So these are the causes. The next one can be anxiety. These are all the probable causes of obsessive compulsive disorder. But students, several research studies are being conducted to find out the root cause of obsessive compulsive disorder. So moving to the next slide, you can see disability etiquettes. Now, what does disability etiquettes mean? It is how we behave when we meet somebody with disability. So disability etiquettes is a set of guidelines dealing specifically with how to approach a person with disability. So I have enlisted some of the common disability etiquettes. They are, first of all, whenever we are going to help any disabled individual, we need to introduce, first of all, that if I am going to help, I will be introducing myself that my name is so and so. I am coming here to help you. So after introducing yourself, student, we need to first of all take permission that can I help you? Okay? Without taking permission, we should never go to help anybody, because that may make them feel. So next is speak directly to the individual. Okay? We need to speak directly to the disabled individual. Then we should give respect to that person. We should give enough respect to that person. Offer shake hand. Okay? We should offer shake hand to the disabled child. Speak with a normal tone of voice. So we should speak with a normal tone of voice. Our tone of voice should be normal whenever we are dealing with children with disabilities. So moving ahead, students, next you can find some of the strategies. Some strategies to make physical activity accessible for children with special needs. So the first one is medical checkup. So time to time proper medical checkup need to be carried out to have a track on their medical condition. The next one is physical activity must be based on interest of the child. So whatever physical activity is being organized for the special needed children, we must take into consideration their interest. The next one is equipments related to physical activity should be according to the needs of the children. That means the equipments have to be modified. We cannot give them the equipments which a normal children used to use. The equipments need to be modified depending on their level of disability. Next one is, students, the specific environment should be provided. Now here the word environment means the play field need to be modified. Depending upon their level of disability. For example, if we take basketball, for disabled child, when they are participating, the height of the ring need to be lowered, the ground area can be minimized. So these modifications need to be taken place in case of specific environment. Okay. Next is a variety of different instructional strategies should be used. That means variety of instructional strategies have to be used. It is not that all the individuals will be easily understanding the same instructions. So we need to give different sort of instructions so that all the individuals, all the children with special needs, they understand the things properly. The next one is rules should be modified according to the needs of the children. As I told you, students, rules have to be modified according to the needs of the children. The last one is children's previous experience must be taken into consideration. If the children has taken part in some earlier event, so their past experience have to be taken care into consideration. Moving to next slide, students. So at last, I would like to say thank you to all of you. I hope you all have understood the things. So today, first of all, we have discussed the disability and the disorder concept. After that, we have discussed the causes of disability and disorder. Next, we have discussed all the disorders and disability in an elaborate way. At last, we have discussed the several disability etiquettes. So, if there is any doubt, students, you can personally approach me. I would feel very happy to clear your doubts. So, thank you all of you. Stay blessed. God bless us all.